Good morning, friends and enemies. In today's video, we're going to run through players I would give up for a first-round pick right now. So we're going to talk about players that have a very high value right now. We're going to look at what their value is on Keep Trade Cut, on Fantasy Calc, and if they fall into that first-round zone, I'm looking to get off of them right now for one reason or another, injury situation, getting old, putting them in a nursing home. We did the reverse of this. We went through third round, second round, and first round guys that I would go trade for if I had those picks. Now we're going to run our way backwards. So in this video, we're going to talk about 7 players that I would give away for rookie picks. And they're going to vary anywhere from like first rounds to late second round picks. And we'll start off by looking at the actual value of these picks, okay? So we'll throw the Keep Trade Cut value board up on the screen right now. On the left side, you've got, where the actual picks are valued. On the right side, you have their, respective player rank, just to get some context. So when I start talking about guys and I'm like, this guy's the 64th ranked player, he's going for a mid to late first round pick. And we'll look on Fantasy Calc as well. This board is up on the screen, and this one actually dives a little bit deeper. It gives you a pick by pick range, but we're trying to get kind of like a middle ground here to find where is a realistic shipping point. Very first player for me on this list is going to be Christian McCaffrey. His Keep Trade Cut value is 80th overall, which would land him around the late first. His Fantasy Calc value is the 59th overall player. So you're talking about between the 105 and the 106. When I think about C-Mac, I think he could, without a doubt, still be a very usable fantasy running back. But this is overall just like a strategy shipment here. I am trying to get off of a 29-year-old or soon-to-be 29-year-old, he might already be 29, dude that's been struggling with Achilles tendonitis for a year now, okay? And again, I still think he can be a good back, good situation, all that kind of stuff, but when you start getting older, like we saw Todd Gurley deal with tendonitis. Tendonitis is something that stays for life. You just have to manage it and can kind of pop up or swell at any point, and we saw it lead to other injuries, right? Like he had to have a season shortened because of a PCL injury. So you're talking about a dude who's getting on the later years of his career that's dealt with a ton of lower body injuries. And at this point, he can go out and prove all of us wrong, obviously, and be a top 5 fantasy running back. But at the same time, it's just a game that I kind of want to get out of, replenish the running back room. This is a really strong running back class. So you might be able to give C-Mac away for, the 105, 106, 108 and get guys like Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Johnson, like guys who fall in really good landing spots. And I don't think the production dip-off from 29-year-old C-Mac that deals with these injuries will be that drastic to these rookies if they're in good landing spots. So with C-Mac, yeah, we're going to get a lot of fucking videos and pictures throughout the offseason about how he's, looks explosive and he's running in shorts with his shirt off, and that means he's 100% healed. It's not how science works. That's not how medical things work. So I'm just going to get out while I can right now, and things can go really south for C-Mac, I think, really quickly if you don't get out right now. So he's going to be the first guy that I'm parting ways with for a first. The next guy up is DK Metcalf, the Pittsburgh wide receiver that just moved over there, got the big deal. Right now, his value on Keep Trade Cut is 68th overall, so he's between a mid and a late first. His Fantasy Calc value is 72nd, so we are between the 107 and the 108s. When I look at DK's situation, now this is one where I'm filming this on Sunday, March 23rd. So we have 5 days probably before you guys even see this. A lot can happen. There's been some rumors that George Pickens might get moved. I don't know if there's any real juice behind those. But Aaron Rodgers going to Pittsburgh is something that could definitely happen, especially with Jameis now signing in New York. That would be something I'd be interested in with DK, with George Pickens. But right now, their quarterback situation is extremely, up in the air. If they don't get Rodgers, this could be a disaster class. When I look at the offense overall, with Metcalf and George Pickens both sharing targets, I don't see a world where, in an Arthur Smith offense, there's volume for either of these guys to be anything more than, a high-end wide receiver 3. There will be very little consistency here. And DK, they kind of do a lot of the same things. They both run a lot of deep routes. And I think DK is obviously a really good receiver, but Pickens is way better at actually making those catches. DK had 33 deep targets last year, which led the entire NFL. And even with that, he still hovered around his normal 1,000-yard year. He doesn't really play his size. He came down with 19.2% of contested catches, which is 100th in the NFL. So if I'm a quarterback and I'm Pickens or DK, who am I chucking it up to? It's probably going to be Pickens. And I'm thinking before DK came over to Pittsburgh, I would have rather had Pickens in Dynasty than DK in Pittsburgh in Dynasty, if that makes sense. But now they're together sharing targets. Just very hard to see how statistical production goes one way or the other with Arthur Smith as the play caller there. So I don't know. This feels like a situation where it's like cool on paper. I'd rather get out right now because I think there's way more situations where DK doesn't have a ceiling than he does. Next up, and maybe this is controversial, we're moving back to the running back position. Kenneth Walker, running back in Seattle. 62 on keep trade cut, so between a mid and late first. 77 on fantasy calc, so you're talking about between the 107 and the 108. The name value for Kenneth Walker feels like it's going to stick around for a long time. I mean, we're a few years in, and he's shown like great glimpses, obviously, games at a time, months at a time where he's great. He can't put together a full season. He is hurt all the time. His offensive line in Seattle, really bad. Like, they continue to not really address that problem. Zach Charbonnet also played really well last year, had a ton of really big games. He scored 8 rushing touchdowns. Like, he is right on Kenneth Walker's ass. He had second-round draft capital, too. Like, his draft capital was right there with Kenneth Walker's. So I know everybody likes to talk about how Kenneth Walker's like this incredible, amazing in-between-the-tackles runner. At some point, like, we have to see it all come together rather than just continuing to pay the price for it. And again, you're talking about getting off of Kenneth Walker for the 107, the 106, the 108, and replenishing a high-end running back in this class that goes to a better situation. I'm all for it. There's no more DK. There's no more Lockett. They bring in Cooper Kupp. I think he's dusty. Sam Darnold's going to struggle, I think, under this offensive line. And when I look at Kenneth Walker, like, he's played in 41 career games. He has hit 20 PPR points in just 7 of them. Like 20 full PPR points, it might seem like a lot, but for a good fantasy running back, hitting 20 PPR points is not something that should be like super hard to get to. You catch a couple passes, you get into the end zone, and you're hovering around 20 points. He's done that 7 times in 41 career games. For some context, Josh Jacobs did that 9 times just last year. So while you might not have as much fun playing Josh Jacobs, you know, watching the highlights, and Kenneth Walker is a little bit more explosive, he's just very boomer bust, which I think can be troubling over the long period of time. A lot of times we see head coaches start to opt for a player that they feel a little bit more secure about and giving the volume that way. And again, Walker like started really, really strong last year, an amazing like first 4 or 5 weeks, catching a lot of passes. They clearly wanted to get him more involved in that role. Now he's got a new system, a new quarterback, a new offense. Like, I don't know, man. And I think of like Chase Brown, who's right there as well. Chase Brown hit 20 PPR points last year 5 times. He wasn't the real starting back until like week 5, week 6, week 7. And he also had 2 games over 19. So he's like right there, as much as Kenneth Walker has been that upside player throughout his entire career. I just think the name value is sticking around a little bit too long right now for Walker. I'm going to jump back into the San Francisco 49ers offense, and I'm probably looking to part ways with George Kittle at this point. Now, his value is a little bit lower. He's 82nd overall in keep trade cut, 86th overall in fantasy calc, so that shows him, you know, around a late first price. Like, at this point, if you've had Kittle, you've got the GOAT production over the last, like, 3 years. If you could flip him for that mid-late first and, again, replenish your tight end room with a Tyler Warren or a Colson Loveland, like, if you have the 205 and you can move George Kittle in 205 for the 106 and grab Warren there, very happy to do that. If you can just move Kittle straight up for the 111, the 112, plus maybe like a much lower value piece and grab Loveland, I also think that's another really good route to go down. And it's similar to C-Mac, whereas like if he had a good year again this year, wouldn't surprise me, wouldn't surprise anybody, but it's more of like a strategy trade. You're looking at a much older tight end that I'm willing to cut bait on who still has, significant value. So we're going to make our way out of the first round players, right? Guys that you're probably not getting a first for. I mean, some of these guys, might be a little bit beloved by your league mates, so maybe you can. The first guy up on this list is Jerry Jeudy for me, the 102nd ranked player overall. So you are looking at right around the 112 on fantasy calc and between a late first, early second on keep trade cut. Jeudy finally had his breakout year last year. He had a great year, obviously. A 5th year, first time going over 1,000 yards. Finished as the wide receiver 12 in fantasy. But if you can't really identify as this being the right time to sell him, I think you've got some problems. This is all of his statistical greatness last year was directly tied to Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston was throwing the ball 45 times per game. And realistically, Jeudy was not the one in that offense until Cedric Tillman got hurt and then missed time and then Jeudy stepped up. Everything broke right for Judy's value to just skyrocket up. So with a completely unknown QB situation in Cleveland right now, with Tillman hopefully back fully healthy next year and Njoku's there, this feels like a beautiful time to sell Jeudy at his peak. I don't love him as a player. I don't think he's that great of a route runner by any means. He's relatively explosive, but Also, if you go look at, any reception perception chart by, Matt Harmon that he's done over the years, Jeudy's always been a really inconsistent, not elite separator by any means. So I'm getting off of Jeudy for sure. I'm also willing to get off Dalton Kincaid, despite him being relatively young right now. He's the tight end 8 in rankings, 107th overall. So again, you're looking at between that late first, early second round pick for Kincaid. I just have zero confidence that the Bills are going to use him in a correct way, or if he even deserves to be used in a correct way. Like he's had every opportunity to break out all over the place. Last year, his rookie year, the dude did not have a single game of more than 53 receiving yards last year. Like, that is Tyler Conklin type shit, all right? And that is despite having a 10-target game and 6 games of 7+ targets. Like, even Kyle Pitts is sitting here laughing at Dalton Kincaid's performance last year. You look at where Kincaid was really supposed to make his money, Khalil Shakir robbed him, went into the safe bank, picked the lock, and took all the work over the middle. 31% first read rate from Khalil Shakir. Kincaid's numbers last year, decent separation numbers, but like second most deep targets in the NFL amongst tight ends, and you're talking about a dude who could not go over 53 yards. His contested catch rate, 23rd among tight ends, 35th in yards per target, 21st in yards per reception, 27th in true catch rate, 18th in yards per route run amongst tight ends. Like, for solely being a pass-catching tight end, that is horrendous. QB rating when targeted, 30th amongst tight ends. And to be honest, the rookie numbers weren't much better. Like his raw stats were, but on a per throw, per catch, per reception, per target basis, they just weren't good. He just might not be that good of a player. And I'm just overall having trouble seeing like what changes are going to go into year 3, what drastic changes are going to happen that make Kincaid all of a sudden break out. Like, there were no signs of his role being a huge change in this offense. And you could tell they're desperately trying to find another guy. Keon Coleman, Amari Cooper. The other thing, too, with just this offense, it was very obvious just how much they trust James Cook. And now the entire running back group between James Cook, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, they had the 4th highest rushing rate in the NFL last year. 49.26% of their plays were rushes. 4th highest rate. That was a 3% increase from 2023, a 9% increase from just 2 years ago. All to say, this offense does not even come close to running through Dalton Kincaid, who unfortunately came out as an older prospect. He's already 25 and a half years old. He is a full year older than the aforementioned Kyle Pitts. And this is not to say that I want Kyle Pitts at all. If you can get off Kyle Pitts for a late first, early second, oh my God. Someone talking about how Kyle Pitts and Michael Penix's going to have great chemistry. Cool. Go to fucking chemistry class all you want. I'm out. But yeah, I'd get off Kincaid right now at that price if I could. And the 7th player on this list is Trey Benson, 132nd overall. The RB 28 in Dynasty rankings right now. So you are talking about an early second, mid-second, somewhere from like the 203 to the 206 range, and I would give him up for that in an instant. He was an okay prospect that had major vision concerns coming out of college. I put a decent amount of video content out last year watching his film where his ability to just miss wide open holes was disgusting. Now, he's a great athlete, obviously, and people like him because of the combine, and he's explosive. But again, we've gone down this rabbit hole a million times. Guys with bad vision that are explosive have a ton of inconsistency and typically only have really big seasons when they're in the perfect situation, i.e., Miles Sanders, i.e. DeAndre Swift. But overall, he just showed very little as a rookie. They clearly wanted to ride James Conner into the dirt. They gave him a contract extension last year. If you're midway through the season and you give this guy a contract extension, you're not in the front office saying like, oh, we could let him walk. We don't need to pay him because we have this rookie that we trust behind him. Clearly, that was not the sentiment. And again, I think people are going to hold on because they look at him as a tantalizing prospect, but that's because the running back class from last year was so bad. This is the class that you should be looking at, the tantalizing second-round rookie prospects. And I genuinely believe if Trey Benson was in this year's class, he would probably be ranked as like the RB 7, 8, 9. Wouldn't have a problem with people putting him RB 10. That is how many good running backs are in this class. Last year, 4.8% of his runs were considered explosive runs. James Conner was up at 6.8%. Missed tackles forced per attempt. Benson was at 0.16. James Conner was at 0.29. Yards after contact per attempt. Benson, 2.19, 43rd among qualified running backs. Meanwhile, his yards before getting contact up at 2.43, 8th in the NFL. James Conner was 23rd. So relative, same backfield, same offense, same everything. Benson was a lot worse, on a small sample size, granted, than James Conner would. I just don't think Trey Benson is that good of a running back, and I would much rather try to reload and re-roll the dice on this upcoming class. So those are 7 players that I would trade away right now for rookie picks. Just to recap quickly, we've got Christian McCaffrey, DK Metcalf, Kenneth Walker, George Kittle, Jerry Jeudy, Dalton Kincaid, and Trey Benson. All right, If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit the button that looks like this. Go check out some of the other video content we've been putting on the channel. We're doing so 4 or 5 times a week. All right, so if you're new here, subscribe, and I'll see you when I see you. Smooches.